in that valley in Afghanistan. In its place was born a new understanding, that in modern warfare, every soldier might need to be a leader, every medic might need to be a warrior, and the lines between saving lives and taking them sometimes blurred in the dust and smoke of combat. But through it all, one thing remained constant, the sacred duty to bring everyone home. And on that day in Helmand Province, Staff Sergeant Ellie Young had fulfilled that duty in ways no one could have imagined. She dragged her commander through hell, picked up his weapon, and finished the mission. In doing so, she'd not only saved lives, but had redefined what it meant to be a combat medic in the 21st century. The Medal of Honor citation would be read at military schools for generations. But for Ellie, the real honor was simpler. Every soldier from her squad made it home alive. In the end, that's all that mattered. She'd been a medic, a warrior, a leader, whatever her soldiers needed her to be. And when they'd needed someone to stand between them and death, she'd stood tall, M4 in one hand, medical pack in the other, refusing to let either duty fail. The mission was complete. Her soldiers were alive. Everything else was just paperwork and ceremony. In the mountains of Afghanistan, she'd learned the hardest truth of combat. Sometimes, to save lives, you have to be willing to take them. And sometimes the best medicine is superior firepower applied with precision and determination. As she looked at her students, young medics preparing for their own trials by fire, she hoped they'd never face what she'd faced, but if they did, she'd made sure they were ready to heal, ready to fight, ready to lead, ready to do whatever it took to bring everyone home, because that's what combat medics do. They stand between death and their soldiers, armed with bandages and bullets equally, fighting death with every tool at their disposal. And sometimes, just sometimes, they win. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, you can subscribe to see more incredible stories like this one. Command wants eyes on the mountain passes, but we're restricted to observation and reporting only. No engagement authority unless we take direct fire. Nicole had heard those same restrictions countless times over the past 2 years. She was qualified to fly one of the world's most advanced attack helicopters, trained to employ its sophisticated weapon systems with precision that could eliminate enemy threats at extreme ranges, but prohibited from using those capabilities in the combat operations for which she had trained. The policy had been established by senior leadership, who maintained that women lacked the physical strength, psychological resilience, and aggressive mindset necessary for direct combat operations. Nicole had repeatedly demonstrated capabilities that exceeded many of her male counterparts, but institutional barriers prevented her from proving herself in the operational environment where those capabilities mattered most. Thompson, hypothetically speaking, if we encountered a situation where American lives were at immediate risk, would you support engaging targets outside our current authorization? Nicole asked as they completed their system checks. Walsh, you know I can't answer that question officially, Thompson replied, but I will say that I've never flown with a pilot who demonstrated better weapons employment skills during training exercises. The compliment was significant coming from Thompson, whose combat experience included successful engagements against enemy forces throughout Afghanistan and Iraq. His confidence in Nicole's abilities stood in stark contrast to the institutional skepticism that had kept her from operational missions. 20 minutes later, Nicole lifted the Apache from the forward operating base and turned northeast toward the patrol route that would keep them within the boundaries established by current policy. The flight path followed the border region where Taliban forces were known to operate, but at distances that typically prevented direct engagement with enemy forces. The Apache performed flawlessly as they climbed to cruising altitude, its twin turboshaft engines providing the power necessary to carry advanced sensors, communication equipment, and weapon systems that made it one of the most capable platforms in the American military inventory. Walsh, we're receiving multiple radio transmissions on emergency frequencies, Thompson reported, monitoring communication channels that carried traffic from units operating throughout the region. Nicole had been trained to monitor emergency communications during all flights, understanding that situational awareness often meant the difference between successful missions and catastrophic failures. The radio chatter indicated increased activity in areas where American forces were conducting operations, but nothing that required immediate response from their aircraft. That changed dramatically when they intercepted a transmission that would test every aspect of Nicole's training and challenge the restrictions that had defined her military career. Any aircraft, this is Bravo Company, came the desperate voice over the emergency frequency. We are surrounded by overwhelming enemy forces with heavy casualties and no available extraction. 20 soldiers trapped, coordinates follow, requesting immediate close air support. The transmission was followed by GPS coordinates that placed Bravo Company approximately 15 kilometers from Nicole's current position, well within the response range of her Apache, but outside the geographical boundaries she was authorized to operate within. "Walsh, that's outside our patrol area," Thompson said, recognizing the tactical implications of the situation. "We'd need permission from command to divert for close air support." Nicole looked at the tactical display showing Bravo Company's position in mountainous terrain that provided numerous advantages to enemy forces while leaving American soldiers exposed and vulnerable. The coordinates indicated they were surrounded in a valley with limited escape routes, facing enemy forces that had likely planned the engagement to maximize American casualties. "Thompson, how long would it take to get clearance from command for combat operations?" "Minimum 30 minutes, probably longer given current policy restrictions on female pilots in direct combat roles." Nicole understood that 30 minutes would be far too long for soldiers facing overwhelming enemy forces with limited ammunition and multiple casualties. The request for immediate close air support indicated that Bravo Company was facing a tactical situation that required intervention within minutes rather than hours. "Thompson, I need your professional assessment. Based on the radio traffic, what's Bravo Company's survival probability if they don't receive air support within the next 10 minutes? Thompson had enough combat experience to recognize desperation in radio communications. The urgency in the transmission, combined with reports of heavy casualties and overwhelming enemy forces, indicated that Bravo Company was facing annihilation unless they received immediate assistance. "Walsh, honestly, if they don't get help immediately, those 20 soldiers are probably going to die." Nicole made a decision that would either save American lives or end her military career. "Thompson, we're diverting to provide close air support to Bravo Company. Plot an intercept course and prepare weapon systems for immediate engagement." "Walsh, that's a direct violation of our current orders. We don't have authorization for combat operations." "Thompson, 20 American soldiers are about to die unless someone with the capability to help them decides that saving lives is more important than following regulations that prevent us from doing our jobs." Thompson understood the implications of Nicole's decision. They would be operating outside their authorized patrol area, engaging in combat operations that female pilots were prohibited from conducting, and potentially facing disciplinary action that could end both their careers. But Thompson also understood that the alternative was allowing 20 soldiers to die when they possessed the capabilities necessary to save them. "Walsh, weapon systems armed and ready. I'm with you on this." Nicole banked the Apache toward Bravo Company's coordinates, increasing speed to maximum as she calculated the time required to reach the engagement area and the tactical options available once they arrived. The flight to Bravo Company's position required 8 minutes of high-speed flight over mountainous terrain that provided numerous opportunities for enemy anti-aircraft fire. Nicole flew at low altitude to minimize radar detection while maintaining sufficient altitude to employ the Apache's weapon systems effectively once they reached the target area. "Bravo Company, this is Apache 77, Nicole transmitted as they approached the coordinates. "We are inbound to your position for immediate close air support. Prepare to mark enemy positions." "Apache 77, Bravo Company," came the relieved response from the ground. "We have enemy forces in 3 directions, approximately 200 Taliban fighters with heavy weapons and mortars. Our ammunition is critically low, and we have multiple casualties requiring immediate evacuation. Nicole could see the tactical situation clearly through the Apache's advanced sensor systems. Bravo Company was positioned in a valley floor with enemy forces occupying elevated positions on three sides, providing the Taliban with both numerical superiority and tactical advantages that made the American position untenable without air support. The enemy had established multiple firing positions using caves, rock formations, and prepared defensive positions that indicated extensive planning and preparation. The ambush had been designed to trap American forces in a kill zone where they could be systematically eliminated while Taliban fighters remained protected from return fire. Thompson, I need target priorities. Which positions pose the greatest threat to Bravo Company? Thompson studied the tactical display, identifying enemy positions based on their weapon signatures and their ability to prevent American movement or evacuation. Walsh, we have heavy machine gun positions on the ridgeline to the north and east. Those are preventing Bravo Company from moving to defensible positions. We also have mortar crews to the west that are dropping rounds directly on the American position. Nicole armed the Apache's 30mm M230 chain gun and prepared to engage the first target, understanding that the success of the mission would depend on systematically eliminating enemy positions in sequence that allowed Bravo Company to either establish defensive positions or move to extraction points. Bravo Company, keep your heads down. We're engaging enemy positions to your north. Nicole's first attack run targeted the heavy machine gun positions that were preventing Bravo Company from maneuvering to more defensible terrain. The Apache's 30mm cannon fired 625 rounds per minute with precision that allowed her to engage individual fighting positions without risk to nearby American forces. The first burst of cannon fire eliminated 3 Taliban fighters manning a heavy machine gun position, immediately reducing the enemy's ability to suppress American movement. Nicole continued the attack run, engaging additional positions along the northern ridgeline with precision that demonstrated why she had consistently scored higher than her male counterparts during training exercises. Apache 7-7, outstanding accuracy, came the report from Bravo Company. Enemy fire from the north has been eliminated. We can move to better positions. But Nicole understood that eliminating one set of enemy positions was insufficient when facing numerically superior forces occupying prepared defensive positions throughout the engagement area. Thompson, prep Hellfire missiles. We need to eliminate the mortar positions before they adjust fire on Bravo Company's new location. The Apache carried 16 AGM-114 Hellfire missiles, precision-guided munitions capable of engaging hardened targets at ranges up to 8 kilometers. Nicole had trained extensively with Hellfires during exercises, but had never employed them in combat due to the restrictions that had kept her from operational missions. Walsh, Hellfire missiles armed and ready. Target designation on the mortar positions to the west. Nicole designated the enemy mortar positions using the Apache's target acquisition and designation system, which provided precision guidance for the Hellfire missiles that would eliminate the Taliban's indirect fire capability. Missile away, Nicole announced, launching the first Hellfire at the primary mortar position that had been dropping rounds on Bravo Company with deadly accuracy. The Hellfire struck the target with devastating effect, eliminating the mortar crew and destroying the weapon system that had been the Taliban's most effective tool for engaging American forces at range. Follow-up missile on secondary mortar position, Nicole called, launching a second Hellfire that eliminated additional enemy indirect fire capability. Apache 7-7, you just saved our lives, came the transmission from Bravo Company. Mortar fire has ceased and we're moving to establish defensive positions. But Nicole realized that her mission was far from complete. Intelligence reports indicated that Taliban forces throughout the region were converging on Bravo Company's position, understanding that the isolated American unit represented an opportunity to inflict significant casualties, while demonstrating their ability to defeat American forces, even when supported by attack helicopters. Thompson, I'm seeing additional enemy movement from multiple directions. This isn't just the original ambush force. They're being reinforced by fighters from throughout the region. Thompson studied the sensor displays, identifying new enemy positions that were establishing blocking positions to prevent Bravo Company's extraction, while additional fighters moved to attack positions that would allow them to overwhelm the Americans through coordinated assault. Walsh, we're looking at possibly 400 enemy fighters converging on this location. Bravo Company is going to be outnumbered 20-1 within the next 30 minutes. Nicole understood that the tactical situation required more than precision strikes against individual targets. She needed to demonstrate the kind of overwhelming firepower that would convince enemy commanders that continuing the engagement would result in catastrophic losses for Taliban forces. Bravo Company, this is Apache 7-7. We're going to neutralize enemy forces throughout your engagement area. Stay in covered positions until we complete attack runs. Over the next 20 minutes, Nicole conducted a systematic destruction of Taliban forces that demonstrated capabilities she had never been permitted to employ in 2 years of military service. She engaged enemy fighting positions with 30mm cannon fire that eliminated individual fighters with surgical precision. She employed Hellfire missiles against caves and fortified positions that provided protection from conventional weapons. She used 2.75-inch rockets to neutralize large concentrations of enemy forces attempting to mass for coordinated attacks. Each attack run was executed with precision that maximized enemy casualties while ensuring zero risk to American forces. Nicole's training had prepared her for exactly this type of engagement, but military policy had prevented her from demonstrating these capabilities in operational environments. Thompson, ammunition status. We're down to our last 4 Hellfire missiles and approximately 200 rounds of 30mm. We've eliminated roughly 150 enemy fighters, but there are still significant Taliban forces in the area. Nicole realized that her ammunition was becoming critically low while enemy reinforcements continued to arrive in the engagement area. She needed to make tactical decisions that would ensure Bravo Company's survival with limited remaining firepower. Bravo Company, what's your status for movement to extraction point? Apache 7-7, we can move, but we have 5 casualties who require medical evacuation. We need approximately 15 minutes to reach the nearest helicopter landing zone. Nicole understood that 15 minutes would require her to provide continuous air support with dwindling ammunition while facing enemy forces that were adapting their tactics to counter her attacks. Thompson, we need to make our remaining ordnance count. Priority targets are any enemy forces that can threaten Bravo Company during their movement to extraction. Nicole employed her remaining Hellfire missiles against Taliban positions that commanded the route Bravo Company would use to reach the helicopter landing zone. Each missile eliminated multiple enemy fighters while destroying defensive positions that could have prevented American movement. The final Hellfire targeted a Taliban command position that was coordinating the continued reinforcement of enemy forces throughout the engagement area. The missile eliminated senior Taliban leadership and disrupted the coordination that had made their numerical superiority effective. Bravo Company, path to extraction point is clear. Move immediately. Nicole provided overwatch during Bravo Company's movement to the landing zone, using her remaining 30mm ammunition to engage any Taliban fighters who attempted to interfere with the American withdrawal. 25 minutes later, medical evacuation helicopters successfully extracted all 20 members of Bravo Company, including the 5 wounded soldiers who received immediate medical treatment that saved their lives. Apache 7-7, this is Bravo 6, came the final transmission from Bravo Company's commander. You saved 20 American lives today. Outstanding work. Nicole turned the Apache toward Forward Operating Base Chapman, understanding that her decision to engage in combat operations without authorization would result in immediate review by senior leadership and potential disciplinary action that could end her military career. But she also understood that 20 American soldiers were alive because she had been willing to employ capabilities that military policy claimed women didn't possess. Thompson, any regrets about today's mission? Nicole asked during the flight back to base. Walsh, I've never flown with anyone who demonstrated better combat effectiveness under pressure. Today proved that capability has nothing to do with gender and everything to do with training, skill, and the willingness to risk everything to save American lives." 2 hours later, Nicole found herself in Colonel Davis's office, facing disciplinary action for violating direct orders by conducting unauthorized combat operations outside her designated patrol area. "Captain Walsh, you directly disobeyed orders that clearly prohibited you from engaging in combat operations," Colonel Davis stated. "Your actions were a flagrant violation of established policy regarding female pilots in attack helicopters." "Sir, 20 American soldiers were facing annihilation by overwhelming enemy forces. I had the capability to save their lives, and military policy should never prevent us from protecting our people when we have the means to do so." Colonel Davis studied the after-action report that documented Nicole's performance during the engagement. The tactical analysis showed that she had eliminated over 150 enemy fighters while suffering 0 friendly casualties and successfully enabling the extraction of all American personnel. "Captain Walsh, your mission results are undeniably exceptional, but you violated direct orders and engaged in operations outside your authorized scope." "Sir, I understand the policy implications of my actions, but I also understand that policies that prevent qualified personnel from saving American lives need to be reconsidered." 3 days later, Nicole received a call from the Pentagon informing her that senior military leadership wanted to review her case and the broader implications of gender restrictions in combat aviation. 2 weeks after the engagement, Colonel Davis received new orders from Department of Defense leadership directing immediate review of policies that prevented female pilots from conducting combat operations in attack helicopters. 1 month later, Captain Nicole Walsh became the first woman officially cleared for unrestricted combat operations in Apache attack helicopters, with her performance during the Bravo Company rescue serving as the case study that changed military policy. Her combat record from a single engagement, 150-plus enemy fighters eliminated, 0 American casualties, successful extraction of 20 soldiers under impossible conditions, had proven that combat effectiveness was determined by individual capability rather than gender. The Taliban forces that had planned to annihilate Bravo Company had instead learned that American attack helicopter pilots, regardless of gender, possessed the training and determination necessary to protect American soldiers against overwhelming odds. Nicole's decision to disobey orders had saved 20 lives and opened combat aviation to qualified women throughout the military. Sometimes the most important battles were fought by people who were willing to do what was necessary rather than what was authorized, proving that protecting American lives transcended every policy that tried to limit who could serve in combat roles. Nicole Walsh had flown one unauthorized mission that changed everything about women in combat aviation, and she had brought every soldier home. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, you can subscribe to see more incredible stories like this one.